The dancers in the back are incredible. They're moving to the music, and it sets such a great tone. Janet and I are lucky enough to be able to watch you, and thank you again for doing that. One of these days, would you please come up front?
Please.
So people can see this, the movement and the love is extraordinary. Well, today we are going to turn the program over to our wonderful Dr. Eileen and Reverend Chris Brown, and they're going to come up and do an amazing program.
We can leave the lights on.
You want them off or on? You take them off? Okay.
Just don't.
She said leave them there.
Well, leave them right where they are, Clyde.
That's perfect.
Yeah, I could, it's just at that level that I could hardly see what you were doing back there, Chris. Thank you.
You know, people may not realize, but Dottie and Janet do not get together and work out these things. You know, this music is something that becomes organic. It becomes an energy, and Janet, it is just so awesome and so wonderful to watch you channel that and channel that through and bring out those words that just touch each and every one of us in a different way. And today, you know, we're going to be talking more about, you know, the wonderful meditation and the thoughts that Dottie brought in. That idea that there are those walls that we have inside of us, and, you know, those may be some pretty old walls, because it is the instinct of the spirit to protect itself. And that happens in a lot of different ways. You know, there's a saying, many rivers lead to the same ocean, but not all those rivers run smooth. And one of the things that happens is that whenever there's more than one person involved in something, there is a potential for, you know, wonderful love, support, and there's also the potential for conflict. And sometimes those conflicts can be very difficult, and we integrate them in different ways. And especially at this season, when people are doing a lot of relating and a lot of connecting, sometimes it's joyous and sometimes not so much. So today we're going to be talking about the eye of the storm. It's that place of quiet. When I was in Hurricane Andrew and we reached the eye of the storm, it was amazing that there was all the wind and the rain, and then all of a sudden there was this place of stillness. I mean, absolute stillness. And you go outside and the sun is shining and the birds start to sing, and it's as if the storm almost never happened. And yet, after a while, the wind starts to pick up, the birds and animals become silent, and then you face the rest of the storm, but you do so having had that break. So when we talk about the eye of the storm, we're talking about ways and tools that we can use to say, you know what, we can make it. I've got my feet under me. I've been able to catch my breath. You know, I've been able to talk to somebody and you know, be able to center and ground myself so that now I can face the rest of the storm. So Reverend Chris Brown is going to be coming up and sharing some things, not only personal experiences and some insights that she has gained through a lot of study and introspection regarding how we manage our choices, how we can be influenced into choices and behavior patterns that maybe not, you know, are the ones that are best for us, and how we can recognize that and be able to move forward. And some of these choices or some of these patterns may resonate with some of you. And if it does, then just, you know, really be present with it, because there's some very cool knowledge that she's going to be sharing and some insights that I think you'll find very helpful. And, you know, one of the best things about the Center for Creative Living is that people share from within, they share from their hearts. Coming up onto this podium it's an offering that we give, and you know, I know that everybody will receive a lot from what she has to say. Then after she speaks, we are going to demonstrate one of the tools, which is energetic work, specifically regenesis. And John, who is here, is going to be coming up and sharing. I have experienced this work, and it is just amazing. And I almost never go to sleep when somebody's working on me, and every single time I've been able to relax my spirit enough to where I can actually doze off. So it is amazing, and please, talk to him afterwards if you feel that you could use that extra bit of help on an energetic level. And then I'm going to give a few more statements, and then we're going to have an awesome song from Ronnie. So it's going to be amazing, and this is a wonderful, safe place to allow yourself to relax, to allow yourself to just be open to possibilities. That even if it's a pattern that feels deeply entrenched, like Dottie said, that wall can actually come down pretty easy if you let it. And we're going to be sharing ways to allow it. So I'm going to call up Reverend Chris Brown.
Could you bring me that coffee cup? It's yeah.
I am so excited. I will say this is one of my favorite. Thank you so much. One of my favorite things to talk about, and probably not the general topic for speaking from the podium, but it's important to me. I feel really honored and blessed and energized talking about it. So, generally speaking, this is about the eye of the storm, and I want to also mention that part of what I'm going to talk about is called the way out. So we're not going to just hang out in that storm. We're going to do a little bit of exploring what the storm is. Everything I'm going to present today is available, most of it here on paper, and if you want the whole thing, that can be made available if you just come talk to me. So I'd like you to just sort of sit back and listen and feel, and just allow whatever comes up for you to be relevant and truthful and important and valuable in our conversation today. I am going to read, because I would be here for 3 or 4 hours if I didn't, so I apologize for that delivery. But I think we'll do best if I stick to my words. What I want to say is that the genesis of this talk today came for me from listening to the news, particularly 1 and 2 months ago. And if that resonates for you, I think you may find a lot here that will feel familiar and hopefully help us all move in a direction of healing, whether it's in our lives today, etc. Okay. So, have the approaching holidays brought back a sense of dread? Or are you perhaps disturbed by what you're reading, hearing, or watching in media? Have you noticed yourself getting a little more irritated than usual, a little more often, and sometimes seemingly with no provocation whatsoever? Or maybe you know exactly why you're upset. Many of us have old memories, or lingering resentments, or present fears, or anxiety-provoking visions, or projections of the future, and how we were or might be dismissed, disrespected, neglected, taunted, shamed, threatened, even physically, psychically, energetically damaged by others around us, especially others that we perceived, or do perceive, to be close to us, a family member, a friend, a caretaker, any kind of authority figure. And these people could be known to us, it could even be strangers, but we still have a feeling of him having been damaged. I believe that we all experience moments of disempowerment. Some of us protest that we have thick skins. It's nothing. I'll just ignore that person. I'll stand in a different part of the room. I'll come in earlier and leave later. I'll quit participating in that activity. How much of ourselves do we actually end up giving away? So today I want to talk about disempowerment, all kinds of disempowerment, no matter whether it feels like a simple slight or we feel completely devastated. We can't continue to participate in our own life. The desire to avoid or mask feelings like this can lead us to a variety of self-destructive behavior patterns. But I also want to talk about the good news, the skills and the resources, spiritual and secular, that we have always at our beck and call. Tools that we already have in our toolbox right now. Valuable, ever-present arrows in our quiver that we can remind ourselves to take out and use to help us neutralize the destructive impulses that we may be holding on to. We can find our way back, and we can begin to fill ourselves up again with our own God-given essence. So first I want to talk about the word insult. So you might look it up in the dictionary, and it might be a disrespectful or scornfully abusive remark or action. But there's another definition of insult that I came across recently, a couple of years ago. It's the medical insult. In medicine, the concept of insult is defined as a bodily injury, irritation, or trauma. I remember latching onto this word the very first time I heard it in this context, because indeed, as I recalled past insulting remarks or actions hurled at me, for whatever reason of the day, I remembered feeling injured, damaged, and traumatized. And it is the trauma of those insults that remains stuck in my cellular memory. If I don't release it, it's still stuck in there. It is that trauma, that injury, that damage that then begins bullying me, taking up more and more speaking time, more insistently at that table, that counsel in my head. So it doesn't matter whether the insult was physical or verbal or emotional, sexual, psychic, whatever. The truth is that it still creates a rent in the fabric of our being. And like any other injury, it typically leaves shock, pain, and unrelenting pressure, or in some cases, a starved emptiness. We internalize a desire to avoid putting pressure or putting consciousness or putting energy into the damaged area. And we tend to treat it with denial, ignoring our discomfort. Or sometimes we choose to push through the pain, thinking that we can destroy the pain itself. When that doesn't work, many of us turn to unhealthy substances or behaviors to numb the pain, to block the memory, or to bury the shame. Now, at some point, that solution, such as it is, doesn't work. So I'm going to make an aside here for anyone who has ever participated or has consciousness about what's called recovery or program recovery from addiction, because I want to speak specifically to that, but I think it would be valuable for everybody to hear. Many people are fortunate enough to discover that they are using unhealthy substances or behaviors to mask or cope with the emotional angst that subconsciously drives their actions, their speech, their decisions, and their outlook on life. Around the world, we are fortunate to have social and spiritual programs to assist with recovery from addiction to substances and behaviors. A lot of people in this room may have already experienced the mercy and grace of freedom from addiction to substances, behaviors, alcohol, drug, food, sex, nicotine, whatever. And often for people who spend time and effort in such recovery, there is an unsettling awareness of deeper waters that still need exploration. So even with a solid foundation in recovery, we may still experience a long-term peeling of the onion.
Speak it, sister.
For example, once we stop numbing ourselves to the pain, the next layer of pain, the next remnant of injury, the next insult long buried, may very likely rise toward the surface, and we may once again experience the shock, the pain, the anxiety, and the shame, similar to the initial crisis that we had internalized earlier. This awareness of deeper work to be done often throws us into anger or depression, especially if we are now experiencing the work and the memories without the buffer of those substances and behaviors that we had used in the past. And once again, we find we need to pay attention in order to cope with triggers in a healthy way. End of digression. Back to main route. I'm going to talk about triggers. Just for you. What I have found for myself personally these past several weeks is that the combination of the death of one parent, the anniversary of another parent's death, very mixed feelings about the upcoming holiday season, very disappointing news in the media, have all served as triggers for the next level of my core discomfort to surface. For example, regarding my family, I remember the sweetness of my dad's smile. But then, the sky quickly clouds over as I recall the harshness of my mother's unrelenting judgment, the crippling codependence of my desperate craving for their approval, and their abject rejection of anything I brought to them, including supper and poetry. From this low place, I have to countervail the tendency to recall darkly others who have wronged me, others who have failed to respect me as a person, or, in my presentation as a female, have simply taken my choices away. I hear stories in the media and I think, #MeToo! And then my full-fledged internal disempowerment is often running, partially fueled by my own self-deprecation that I still clutch to so tightly. After all, if my mother is no longer here to negate my existence, shouldn't I pick up the whip and continue? Who am I, if not the collection of my faults and my suffering? The way out! Aside, did you know that the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous was first titled The Way Out, but there were already 4 books in existence, so it has the new title. Okay, end of side. I want so very much to give you the way out that first I'm going to tell you a short story that actually contains in part the answer to the way out. So So here's the story, and as I said, everything I'm saying today is available, some today and some by talking to me. This one's available today. This is a story called Autobiography in 5 Chapters by Portia Nelson. Some of you may be familiar with this. Chapter 1. I walk down the street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I'm lost. I'm hopeless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find a way out. Chapter 2. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I'm in the same place. But it isn't my fault. It still takes a long time to get out. Chapter 3. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in that sidewalk. I see it is there. I still fall in because it's a habit. But my eyes are open. I know where I am. It is my fault. I get out immediately. Chapter 4. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. Yay! Chapter 5. I walk down another street. I think that this story perfectly describes the idea of initial disempowerment and then the remarkable change to full empowerment. In the first one, we begin by thinking that something just happened. We don't know what it is, and it feels terrible. I personally experienced the dilemma of somebody else put something in motion, accompanied in contrast with, ultimately, I'm the one to blame. For me, this is the part of the reason that I feel lost. How much was mine, and how much was someone else's? It takes a long time to get out, but at least I was not completely defeated. In the end, I did find a way out. In the second part, denial kicks in. Do you know this? One of my favorite expressions about hell? It's not hot and I'm not here. Having experienced escape once, I have the beginnings of faith that perhaps I will not die today. In fact, there is something stirring in me, something about not lying in collapse, but rather, perhaps there actually is a reason for me to be here on earth after all. I have no idea what it is, but I gather that I must be being saved for something useful, hopefully good. Slowly but surely, I eventually find my way out. In the third section, I become conscious that something about this whole thing is a pattern. It may have nothing to do with reality. It could simply be the lens that I keep throwing up in front of me without really validating it first. I'm able to track how I feel that this place is familiar. It's my go-to place when I'm saddened or hurt or vulnerable or shamed or afraid. I can envision actually making better choices next time. I'm beginning to see myself as a more complete, more competent, perhaps even more valuable person. At least God loves me, and maybe at least one or maybe two other people too also. I can envision wanting to help other people avoid this deep hole in their path as well. My sacrifice to that end could be a good thing for the universe, don't you think?
Sure, you bet.
In the fourth section, I discover that I'm being presented with an opportunity to choose not to indulge in this martyrdom of negativity, to fashion my own way, my own path, designed especially for me. How do I know what's my path? Where is my character? Where is my truth? Amazingly, I now have answers, perhaps for the first time. I can feel immense gratitude for being so loved that I am being divinely coached. And in the 5th section, lastly, I found myself free. I am in my own core. No one invades my space. I fill myself up with me. And I'm on my way to becoming whole.
Cheers! That's a powerful song, Chris, right there. I fill myself up with me. All right.
So,
Yeah.
now that we've had a preview of this way out, I want to take another look at some of the tools that are at our disposal to achieve freedom from this negative space. And again, everything I'm about to say, you actually probably received already this morning. Sit on it. Don't read it with me because that'll be really boring for you. But this is available. So the first tool is community. Woohoo! I like to start with community because, first of all, we're all here together as a congregation. It's a conscious group of folks committed to our own personal healing and, ultimately, the healing of the world.
Okay.
We meet here every Sunday morning. Our CCL community bees. It exists on its own reliable schedule. We can all become part of it any Sunday, any day, because it is always here. When we come to CCL on a weekly basis, we place ourselves in the midst of loving care and absolute affirmation that we are all children of God and we have a right to be here in our fullness. And we all support each other to fill ourselves up and to heal. The second tool is prayer and meditation. I believe that we can all talk to God, Goddess, Spirit, our guides, whatever you want to have, whoever you want to have that conversation with. We can sit in silent prayer, or we can take a meditative walk and speak out loud. We can choose to pray with one or more fellow souls, or with a mentor, or a member of the clergy, whatever faith you prefer to embrace. The Center for Living with Dying has a remarkable tool: acknowledge, express, act, and reconnect. Acknowledge that this insult actually did happen and you've been affected. Express your emotions: fear, anger, distress, self-blame. Remember that holding the energy does the most damage to the person holding it. Take advantage of opportunities to share your feelings. And if you don't see an opportunity, ask for one. When and with whom it is safe, let your significant others, your intimates, know that you are going through a struggle and ask them for what you need that they can provide. Act. To avoid feeling helpless in the grip of the trauma and allowing it to determine who we are, we can choose actions that reflect and determine our identity for ourselves. To help loosen that grip, take action. Write in a journal, draw, use a beautiful coloring book, walk in nature, look up at the night sky, listen to the roar of the ocean. And there's more when you get the reading. Read to a child. Broadcast flower seeds on a barren part of the highway and mark a day in your calendar when they will be in bloom. The fourth from the center is reconnect. Our isolation from others can make recovery more difficult. While we may want to sit with our own thoughts initially, at some point it becomes helpful to share time, if not information, with others more broadly. So there are a number of groups who are available to be a witness to your story. At CCL, we can help you find those people. The fifth is physical attunement, energy, or body work. I've talked a lot about the body. Oftentimes, after we experience a trauma to the body, or our heart, or our psyche, we have a tendency to hold the energy down tightly. And over a long period of time, keeping this tension, we end up with physical problems. Walking is a really good way to move negative energy out of your system. You could try energy work. You think we might have a few of those here at CCL?
Yeah, I don't know, maybe.
This is for Janet. Above all, be gentle with yourself. Know that while others may have had or may be having similar experiences, you are unique in your experience. Whatever you're going through, know that these are all normal and understandable feelings and emotions. Keep room for your feelings and emotions as they continue to surface. Express wonder and gratitude for the fact that you've come this far. Know absolutely that there are others with their stories similar to yours, yet unique in all the world. And lastly, we can heal together. And as you've heard, and as you've possibly read, we've set aside next Sunday from 12:30 to 3 a time called Open Healing in the community room. We encourage anyone to come and listen and share. It is absolutely free, and it is an open forum for anyone to attend, to listen, to share, to grieve, and to heal. There will be people there to help you if you want to share one-on-one. So, I am just so grateful to be able to share what happened to me, how I processed it, and give you some information that might help you recognize that you may have suffered an insult, and here's some ways to help that process through. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Oh, thank you so much.
Was that not amazing? I tell you, that's worth the price of admission. Thank you so much, Reverend Chris.
Yes.
And it's when people get up here and open themselves up and share, you know, that's what it's all about. That's what being a reverend is about. That's what being a minister is about. It's about saying, you know what, life handed me all of these experiences, you know, good ones and bad ones, and I can use what I gained from this rather than think about, you know, wow, I was so hurt. It's like, yes, I was hurt, and now I'm wiser, and I can help somebody else go through it. Light the way, show the way, then get out of the way so they find their way. So, as Chris mentioned, energy work is one of our key pieces. Miss Patty?
Would you repeat what you just said? I was listening so hard, I didn't repeat it.
Well, that is my motto as a teacher and as a reverend in everything I do. Light the way, show the way, then get out of the way so they find their way. So, that's within you.